this doesn't look a wonderful spread for July. But I've got this real feeling that it's actually important and within your interests. Immediately drawn to that Seven of Swords, that's betrayal, another betrayal. Doesn't mean to say they get away with it, you might indeed spot it. Why are you being betrayed again? Well, you come into some money, and I think that sparks this betrayal. Oh, right at the beginning, you're feeling wealthy, you're indulging yourself, and why wouldn't you? You've been short of money for so long. But maybe there's a slight feeling of being on your own here. Again, you've been on your own while you didn't have money. Not necessarily I mean you don't have family, but you've been fairly isolated. And now you've got money, you're still feeling somewhat isolated. In the future, and I think this is very positive, you're going to be full of energy, which is something you've not been for a while. Determined to communicate, determined to do things. So I think that's pretty good. But this betrayal is going to break your heart because you've had so many betrayals. I'm sure it's people close to you as well. That leads to the outcome, but what would change the outcome is you being a little bit miserly with your money. Maybe that's understandable. You've had so many betrayals over money. And the outcome is you considering your options, considering quite radical options. And of course, in the future, you are exploring, I think, quite radical alternatives, full of life with it. So maybe it's all been necessary. I don't know. Let's get into each individual energy for you. Now, what characterises July's betrayal? You seem to have gone through so much betrayal, Leo. I'm a Leo, so in my case, it has been personal, but I can see connections to the betrayal that there is in society within my own personal circumstances, and I'm sure you can. This is the sort of betrayal whereby the people doing it are doing it consciously, but might feel guilty about it. You may even catch them out. They might not get away with it. But I think it does have a profound effect on you. Profound. Probably because it's just yet more betrayal, As I say, I get the impression that everything is happening for a reason. So whilst I cannot pretend that this is a great spread, I still have hope, Leo. I still have hope. Unfortunately, there's an obvious reason for this betrayal. And that is before July, you come into some money, some new money. So you're probably feeling very good, but that money attracts this betrayal. Yeah, it's so sad. I mean, could this be betrayal of a personal nature, or is it betrayal by the sort of financial system, by governments? I mean, as you know, I'm British, but I live in Indonesia, and the whole sort of government regulations seem to be conspiring against me. For example, the Royal Bank of Scotland debanked me, and it looks like that's going to cost me maybe tens of thousands of dollars. I'm not sure, I'm not sure. But yeah, it could be entirely personal. It could be people that this betrayal occurs by. But if you're like me, you've just had enough of betrayal, So I'm sure it's not a great thing, even though you feel elated at getting this money. And I think this new money makes you comfortable. I'm not saying you lose it all, I'm not saying you lose it. In fact, I'm sure I'm not saying that. I think you just lose, maybe you lose a chunk of it, or maybe you just spot it, the betrayal, But yeah, it affords you some comfort, which you haven't enjoyed for quite some time. Now, I often associate this energy with comfort, or, material wealth, but being alone. Now, to a certain degree, I've got a very loving family here in Indonesia. I don't think it's saying I'm going to lose my family. But I have understood that in order for me to move on with what's the little bit that's left of my life, then I need to forget about the country of my birth. So, I don't really have any friends in Indonesia. All I have is my family. So I suppose, when my money does come, it's pensions and inheritance, But when it does come, I'm still, I can feel comfortable with it. But I am somewhat lonely, as you would be. So I can get this feeling. Now in the future, you're going to feel full of life, vibrant, searching for something new, something different, maybe new information, maybe a new life, almost abandoning your old life as well. Now I'm sure that's talking to me about abandoning the country of my birth and just moving on in Indonesia. But the other thing I take from this card is things are not as bad as they seem in July. No, it spurs you on to different ways of doing things. And I'll tell you what I think it's about. When I first came to Indonesia, I had money. And I had no idea I wouldn't be able to work during my time in Indonesia, nor indeed really run a business. And I built a home up in the mountains of Java, and I considered turning it into a sort of a tourist resort. But in building that house, my brother-in-law's family cheated me out of a lot of money. Now, that in itself didn't matter so much. Well, it did, but what it taught me was that I couldn't trust people where I lived or where I built the house. So there was no point whatsoever in building a resort there because I simply couldn't trust the local people. Now this is common for foreigners investing in Indonesia. After a while, they begin to realise that the Indonesians see them as the way of making money and not their business idea. It's something that you have to come to terms with, unfortunately. And I think it's that sort of a feeling I'm getting from all this. This betrayal breaks your heart. Now remember that little speech I've just given about my brother-in-law and his family. It is heartbreaking, You have a dream that includes others, that others would benefit greatly from, but they betray you, and I'm sure it's that hurts. I don't think the betrayal is massive. I don't think it is. I think it simply is that you had a dream and you're seeing that dream destroyed by greed around you. By people, also, it happens in the West, but particularly in Indonesia, when you want to do something, people always ask you your budget. And what that means is, we intend to spend the maximum of that budget. Not, we're going to come up with a good solution for you, but we need to know how much money we can take from you. And it's that that's so depressing. Because to my mind, it stifles all enterprise in this country, you know. It stifles the ability to do anything. And so if that happens to me again, you know, I mean, it will be a lesson. But, you know, it'll break my heart for a while, but only a while. Sure, what the universe is saying to us is that this could have been avoided if you were a bit more miserly or cute with your money. Now, I know how you feel. You know, the house I live in Jakarta, rather than the house I built in Java, you know, it's falling down. It needs a lot of money spending on it. Now, I'm reluctant to spend a lot of money on it because I've a twinkle in my eye that I'm going to make some big money somewhere. And, you know, it's not worth spending big money. But we'd have to spend some on it. And, you know, I'm sure that if we start spending money, we will be betrayed again, because of a part of the reason we have to spend the money is over 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we had some work done, and everything that was done very badly, and we're having to replace everything that was done those 12 years ago, you know. And so I think this is just saying, well, you know, just because you've got the money, don't go splashing it around, be careful with it, and things could turn out the better. Now, if you don't follow that advice from the universe, I'm sure that things aren't so bad. You know, it was a lesson for you, a little bit of a lesson. Yes, your heart does get broken, but it's a little lesson for you. And as a result, you set about planning, you set about considering your alternatives, and they're quite radical alternatives. You're looking at what you can do to make the best of this situation. And of course, you emerge out of it full of life, determined to move on. So, you know, as I say, I'm not going to see this as negatively as it could be. But let's get some clarity on this betrayal, because of, you know, it is important, clearly. So I'm going to seek clarity on this betrayal. And the first card we get is the Chariot. A balance, direction, moving quickly. The next card we get is the Sun card, blessings. And then the final card we get is being stabbed in the back. The rug being pulled from under your feet. Yeah, I think I've got this right, don't you? Let's look at each bit. Now, I have shared with you my dream of moving from this house in Jakarta. But I'm not going to share with you the rest of the dream, because it's a manifestation and you don't share them, you know. But there's another element to it. And I think, you know, I've been feeling that big money is coming my way. Bigger than my inheritance. Something bigger still is coming my way. And maybe I've misread that new money. And that new money is even bigger than I was thinking in this read, you know. And as a result, you get the bit between your teeth. You've got a real sense of direction. You know what you want to do and how to get there, and you're moving quickly and you're rushing. Just like I rushed to build the house in Java, you know. Well, I didn't so much rush, but, you know, I'd got plans for much bigger things, you know. So I do have plans for much bigger things, and I think this July reading is warning me against that. You've got the bit between your teeth, you're rushing when you're being told, no, just for now, save your money. Don't rush into it. do you know, I think I'm right about the money being bigger than I'd first anticipated. It's more than the inheritance, and you probably say, lucky bugger, he's got an inheritance coming, you know. Well, the truth is, my mother died nearly 2 years ago now, and I'm still waiting on it. Plus, I spent about $10,000 in out-of-pocket expenses that I've not been able to reclaim until I get the inheritance. And that might not sound a lot to you in the West, but given that I live on, $15,000 a year, you know, it's been significant. It's been a significant issue for me. So I think this is bigger than that, because this is a card of multiple blessings. So your ship comes in another way. It's not going to be my pensions. My pensions aren't really due till August. So I think it's the other part of my dream or manifestation that does come in. And it's that you get betrayed on, because you get lulled into a false sense of security. Now, I don't know about you, but when things are going well for me, I think nothing can go wrong. And to a certain degree, you know, it's all about your vibrations. So the fact that you're happy, then, you know, you will attract more happiness, more blessings. But you don't spot when things are going to change. And that's happened to me a few times in my life. And I think this is one of those circumstances. And remember, we're clarifying the card of deception. And now we have a card of being stabbed in the back. Now you look at it. He's overlooking the city of London. He's on a roof there. He's got 10 swords in his back and he's dropped his briefcase. So it's going to cause a complete change of your plans. And this is what I'm talking about. The actual deception itself might not be great, but it's the deception to your dreams, as it were. Finding out that those around you, or maybe not around you, but others don't share your dreams, even though they perhaps don't come from a bad place, don't come from greed, come from wanting to help others. But you realise that no, there's no point you having those sorts of dreams. You look after yourself. Remember the card of being a little bit miserly. You take care of yourself. Don't include others in what your dream is, because it's the end of your dreams, and that's why you get a broken heart. Yeah, I don't think it's as sad as it feels. You know, sorry, I don't think it's as sad as it feels. It's a lesson in life that I've been going through this lesson for many years now. So let's summarise for you, Leo. Leo, I started this reading by saying it doesn't look like a good spread, and let me put some real positive on it before we move on. And that is, I think you're going to come into, before July, you're going to come into some money, big money, bigger than you anticipated. It's going to allow you to have those little luxuries in life, but you might feel somewhat alone. However, that new money attracts betrayal. Now, I think it attracts betrayal because you've got plans on what you're going to do with that money. Very, very radical plans, I think, that include others. And I don't think you're being that selfish with it. In fact, I think the universe is saying it's better if you were a bit selfish, at least for now. Because of when you engage with others, that's going to cause them to betray you, stab you in the back, which will create an ending to this plan of yours. Now, of course, because everything's been going so well for you, you get overconfident, and it's happened to me a few times in my life. When I get overconfident, then there's a fall. And I think that's what's happening here. And I think this is the universe reminding you of this, you know. reminding me in particular, you know, I have been fairly rich in the past. Now I've got very little. And it's saying, well, you're going to get new money again, but when you do, if you get overconfident, your heart does get broken by this, but the universe is warning, if you can be a bit more careful, things could work out better. And if I look at what I did in the past, you know, I was extremely generous. I gave an awful lot away of my money to charity. I was very generous with my staff. And now, you know, those charities and my former staff are in a better position than I am. So, you know, if I had my time again, maybe I wouldn't have been so generous. You know, I'm not talking about being greedy. I'm not that sort of person at all. But after this all happens, you start planning. And planning something else, something quite radical. And it gives you a new lease of life. So, you know, I think it was just the universe reminding you of the lesson that you've learned, but maybe not fully learned it. And it's just a reminder of it. And July won't feel great, but, you know, there is that very positive thing before July of what I see as great wealth coming to you.